Unveiling the shocking truth, biblical prophecies about the end times that haunt us today. The air crackled with an unshakable tension. Whispers echoed in the dimly lit room, as if the shadows themselves were anxious. People leaned closer, hearts pounding, desperate to hear the heart-stopping tales that had been locked away in history, waiting to unveil the maddening truths of the end times. Was the world truly on the brink of chaos? Chilling accounts of prophetic visions were starting to awaken, and an overwhelming dread wrapped its fingers around each of them. Everyone felt it, an unholy fear that lingered, seeping deep into their bones. They spoke of ancient texts, reveling in a past that seemed to bleed into the present. Reports had surfaced of strange occurrences, blood-red moons illuminating the skies, earth trembling beneath their feet, creatures appearing from myths mere folklore coming to life. And the locals? They had gone from banal life to a frenzy, eyes wide in disbelief as unexplained phenomena unfolded just beyond their town borders. The ground itself groaned, as if echoing the prophecies broadcasted by long-forgotten seers. As each tale unfolded, the stories escalated. People talked of visions, their voices rising in pitch as they recalled the eerie feeling of something looming just out of sight. A woman in the corner trembled at the mention of the 4 horsemen, her fingers quivering like leaves caught in a sudden storm. Were they merely figurative or riding into their reality? The question hung heavily in the air, thick and suffocating. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As the room grew heavier with suspense, eyes flickered toward the window. Outside, a storm brewed, dark clouds swirling like the chaos brewing within. A sudden brightness flashed, splitting the sky, a forked lightning bolt that illuminated a figure, robed in shadows, standing eerily still. Gasps erupted, and thoughts raced. Who was this mysterious figure? Was it a warning or a messenger? Answers to questions hung tantalizingly close, just out of reach, while a soul thought clawed at everyone's mind. The end times were just beginning. The figure outside seemed to pulse with energy, its presence magnifying the electric tension inside the room. The storm's roar drowned out whispers, leaving only the sound of racing hearts and shallow breaths. It took a step forward, the shadows stretching and warping like ink on wet paper, revealing hints of a face obscured in darkness. The room's atmosphere thickened, choking off rational thought, spinning dread into a tangible fog. What do you want? A voice called out, breaking the silence that had ensnared the crowd. It was a shaky inquiry, as if the truth could be bartered with the air itself. Murmurs rippled through the gathering, each person battling their own silent fears. They feared the unknown, but what was worse? Accepting that they might soon find out. Lightning cracked again, illuminating the room with a stark brilliance as the figure raised a hand. It didn't speak, but something shifted in the air, resonance, a pulse of knowledge that only the deep recesses of their minds could grasp. Visions surged. Once not of folklore, but of reality spiraling into chaos. Then came the scream, a single, piercing cry that sliced through the anxieties. A man collapsed to the floor, clutching his head, skin pale and slick with sweat. It's true. It's all true. He gasped, eyes wide with terror, darting as though the shadows themselves were pursuing him. The woman who trembled at the mention of the horseman suddenly gripped his arm, propelling him upright. What do you see? Her voice was laced with urgency, pleading for clarity amidst the growing storm of panic. They're coming, he choked out. The harbingers. The signs are everywhere. He pointed toward the window, and each set of eyes wandered back to the figure outside, where lightning continued to slice the sky into jagged, terrifying patterns. The air felt charged, as though they were on the cusp of something monumental. Outside, the winds howled, pulling at the shutters of the old building. The people huddled closer together, their collective resolve strengthening as fear blurred into certainty. We have to understand, a voice emerged from the cluster, a woman standing resolute despite the shudder running through her body. We can't ignore this any longer. With each word, they stepped further into a realm of boldness. Questions that had festered in their hearts spewed forth fears of failing their families, of abandoning the fight against inevitable doom. Ancient texts, ominous signs, the 4 horsemen, they all wove into an unyielding tapestry of fate. The truth, terrifying as it was, felt almost empowering in this moment. Another flash of lightning illuminated the figure, casting aside shadows, its features momentarily visible. It looked human, but the eyes glowed with a fiery brilliance, a knowledge that transcended time. The room held its breath as understanding dawned on them, slipping in like an unwelcome guest. They couldn't just sit idly by. They had power, each voice joined in a chant of determination to uncover the reality behind the terrifying omens, but before they could proceed, the figure turned its gaze toward the crowd. A sinister smile crept across its lips. The room chilled, and the sound of their racing hearts thundered against the encroaching darkness. What awaited them on the other side of fear? A new revelation stole through the group, prickling the back of their minds. What secrets did this entity hold? What promise of knowledge, or of doom, would it unveil? As if in response, the figure began to step closer, the storm raging in tandem with their rising anxiety. The figure's lips parted, and from that shadowy mouth, a single chilling word slipped through the chaos apocalypse. And just like that, with dread washing over them, the question loomed, would they stand firm against the tide, or would they drown in uncertainty? The figure stepped forward, drawing gasps and whispers from the gathered crowd. Each heartbeat felt louder, echoing their fear in the dim light. The room vibrated with an unseen energy, a tremor of anticipation that sent chills through their spines. And still, the entity wore that unnerving smile, its fiery eyes burning with horrible knowledge. What does it mean? A voice whimpered, the tremor of panic palpable. What comes after the apocalypse? The figure tilted its head, an eerie grace that felt almost mocking. As if it was savoring every second of their fright. Not what? Who? It replied, the words resonating like thunder. The weight of them pressed down on the audience, suffocating. They exchanged wide-eyed glances, dread crept in like poison, fingers clenched tightly, sweat glistening on foreheads. They waited for the truth to spill from the dark figure. But it remained silent, letting tension thicken the already stifling air. Then again, it raised its hand, a strange gesture that felt almost ritualistic. The room held its breath, uncertainty swirling. A voice rang out from the back, gravelly and uncertain. You are here to warn us, aren't you? You're the harbinger of what is to come. The man who spoke seemed smaller somehow, swallowed alive by the storm of fears rattling around. All eyes flicked to the figure, waiting. Thunder roared again, drowning out the silence. As the shadows shifted, the figure's presence morphed. There was something ancient etched within its silhouette, a legacy sewn into existence like a thread in a tapestry. Consider this an opportunity, came the reply, echoing with authority. A time to awaken. Murmurs cascaded through the crowd, each voice layering upon the other a mixture of fear and curiosity. Awaken. To what? Someone shouted, desperation spilling over. They all sensed it, there was a choice to be made, perhaps one that cradled hope or lead to doom. Suddenly, the lights flickered. The room dimmed into darkness, broken only by the flicker of lightning outside. When they flared back on, the figure had moved closer still, and the atmosphere warped with a surreal bend. It leaned forward, lips forming words that emerged like smoke curling in the air. The signs are laid, the chaos predicted. The truth binds you your very souls. Fear twisted in their stomachs, making it hard to breathe. What do you mean, our souls? The question spilled from trembling lips, as if saying the words aloud could somehow ward off the impending dread. The choice is before you, the figure declared, voice like rolling thunder. Face the looming shadow or become part of the darkness. A collective gasp filled the room. The darkness. Was it literal? Metaphorical? People shuffled, tightening their grip on each other for comfort while others recoiled, seeking to flee the suffocating chill that lingered around them. Who are the harbingers? A woman cried out defiantly, eyes blazing. Tell us how we fight. But the figure merely laughed, an unsettling sound echoing in their ears. Fight? Or succumb? The choice is yours. But know this, decisions made in these moments will ripple through eternity. With each revelation, the crowd's courage flickered and swelled. Could they really make a difference? Or were they just pawns in a vast, unknowable game? Outside, the storm reached its crescendo, rain lashing against the windows, wind howling with the voice of chaos. The figure now stood entirely shrouded in darkness, shadows flickering across its form. Prepare. The time for choice is nearly at hand. As those final words absorbed into the minds of the frightened assembly, the figure vanished in a swirl of shadows and silence, leaving behind an echoing promise of chaos and the crushing weight of impending judgment. It was now or never. What would this assembly of uncertain souls do in the face of fate and fury? And beneath a shroud of darkness, the first omen of the apocalypse began to rumble in the distance. What fate would they choose next? The room pulsed with charged silence after the figure's departure. It felt like the air itself was holding its breath, waiting. Eyes darted around, searching for meaning, comfort, something, anything. All they found was uncertainty, interspersed with the sounds of the storm raging outside. A flicker of panic swept through, igniting whispers. Do we really have a choice? A young woman said, her voice cracking as fear coursed through her body. Or are we trapped in this nightmare? She was met with a chorus of anxious glances and murmurs. No one answered her. Could they face the shadow? Did they even know what the shadow was? Maybe we should listen to it, an older man suggested, his voice wavering but assertive. Whatever it is, it knows something. Or wants to play with us, a man in the back countered, folding his arms defiantly. I refuse to sit in this hellhole and let some ghost tell us what to do. What if it's not a ghost? A woman interjected. What if it's real? What if we are in real danger? Thunder cracked again, shaking the walls as if to punctuate her point. Outside, the world seemed to convulse with turmoil. The rain was now a relentless barrage, slamming against the windows with a relentless fury, as though trying to break through, just like the rising dread within them. A young man, barely out of his teens, took a step forward, his face strained with determination. Okay. Let us just confront this. If it's a threat, we need to face it together. We can't let fear divide us. His words clung to the air, a desperate call to unity in a space thick with trepidation. The crowd stirred, sorely tempted by the intoxicating promise of taking control. What if banding together was the answer? What do we have in common? A voice rang out, encouragingly. Our shared humanity. Our love for one another. We can fight the darkness together. We could put our differences aside for now. Another added, sunshine always comes after the storm. But their voices were drowned by another heart-thumping clap of thunder, shaking the foundations of the already precarious situation. Outside, the storm raged, mirroring their own chaotic emotions. Then, just beyond the windows, something flickered in the light. Eyes turned to the glass, entranced by the flashes of sudden illumination. Shapes morphed against the rain-soaked shadows, moving with unnatural fluidity. The crowd gasped. Was it more darkness coming to consume them? Or were these the harbingers the figure had summoned? Panic took hold again, feeding on their uncertainty. What are we supposed to do? Someone cried out, breaking the growing tension. Identify the danger. Shouted the young man, his voice a lifeline amidst the rising tide of fear. We need to see what is coming for us. And just like that, curiosity surged over terror. They all edged closer to the windows, heartbeats racing as they peered into the chaos beyond. Shadows danced like restless spirits, images swirling in and out of view with each crack of lightning. Suddenly, a figure darted past the glass, too quick to grasp. It emerged soaked from the storm, a woman, her clothes drenched and clinging, a look of panic on her face. She crashed against the door, her voice a desperate shriek. Help. You have to help. The crowd surged back, gasping. Open the door. Someone shouted. But a deeper instinct kicked in. Was it truly help she sought? Or had the shadows led her here, just as they had been led to the figure? Fear anchored them in place. The question hung in the air like a dark curse. As the pounding storm raged outside, the looming choice became a deafening drum. Would they help her? Or would they allow fear to chain them? Time hung in balance, and as they teetered on the brink, another life was poised to change forever with consequences they could scarcely imagine. The moment stretched, an eternity caught in the howling wind and hammering rain. The woman barely recognized the faces staring back at her, wide-eyed and pale, yet a flicker of hope lit her eyes. Please. She cried, fists pounding against the door. Let me in. Behind her, the shadows swayed like they had a life of their own. Thunder roared as if nature itself was in agreement. The stakes were rising. What if it's a trap? A man hissed, leaning close to his friend, brow furrowed. The crowd tensed, betrayal lurking in every heartbeat. She could be leading us to our doom. Or maybe she is a survivor. Another woman shot back, her voice choked with anger and fear. We can't just leave her out there to die. Not again. Her words hung heavy in the air, stirring a mixture of guilt and urgency. The young man who had first stepped forward pressed closer to the door, his heart hammering with reckless bravery. We can't let fear hold us back. If she is telling the truth, we owe it to her. We owe it to ourselves. The sound of a fist imploding against the wood echoed deep, unrelenting, and through his resolve raised a chill of doubt. What if they opened the door only to unleash the very darkness they had dreaded? But there was no time to debate. Another flash of lightning illuminated her trembling form, a human caught in a tempest. Help! She pleaded again, voice raw with desperation. They're coming for me. You have to believe me. Please, they'll kill me if I stay out here. A shiver ran through the group. Each of them held the weight of their own choices, balancing safety against the call of compassion. After one sting of thunder, it became heartbreakingly clear the storm wouldn't stop until they made a decision. What if it's a test? The older man murmured, squaring his shoulders. What if we're meant to decide between the darkness outside and the darkness inside us? Suddenly, a heavy knock rattled the door, loud and insistent. The woman's panic flickered into alarm. Please. You have to let me in. She looked back into the tempest, and for the first time, they saw it, the unsettling shape swirling around her, creeping from the rain. Something sinister, something ethereal, seemed to grasp for her, hunting, hungry. It's coming, the young man urged. Our time is running out. But what rushed through the room felt like a flood of memory, dredging up fears they all shared. What was everyone hiding? What darkness lay beneath their skins? A woman in the back spoke, her voice trembling but firm. We can't let fear rule us. If she is in danger, if we turn our backs, we might never forgive ourselves. In that moment, a surge of quiet determination passed through the group. They looked from one face to another, emotions swelled, a shared understanding birthed in chaos. Clenched fists relaxed, breath steadied, the young man reached for the lock, fingers trembling. A choice forged in bravery was about to unfold, or perhaps a mistake, a doorway to disaster, but something had to change. With a deep breath, he flicked the lock open. In that instant, the chamber swelled with a gust of wind, battering against their collective resolve. Step back. Someone shouted as the door swung wide, the threshold crossed, shadows poured in like ink spilling across a canvas. A gasp escaped the woman's lips as the light fell upon the woman, desperate and ragged. And in the flickering chaos, as the world outside fell silent, the woman stepped inside, her eyes wide with unspoken terror. They're here, she whispered, but before they could ask what followed her, the shadows outside erupted, colliding with the very essence of their fears. As they fought to process the calamity, a figure broke through the darkness that engulfed them. Its features were familiar enough to chill every bone. Did you really think you could escape? It hissed, an echo from their past surfacing within the storm. The air crackled with dread, and the room thrummed with the pulse of their unraveling reality. Would they confront this remnant of their fears? Or would they let their past consume them once and for all? The answer lay just out of reach as chaos converged like a dark promise. The air thickened with tension. The woman's eyes darted around the room, a wild panic etched into her features as if she could feel the darkness closing in. The familiar figure loomed larger with each heartbeat. It was him, Jason, the one they thought they'd buried in their memories. The one who had betrayed them all. You think you're safe now? He sneered, shadows flickering like flames around him. You sealed the doors, but you can't escape your past. I'm the reckoning you never prepared for. The crowd shrank back, fear weaving through their ranks. The young man felt his heart twist painfully in his chest, the memory of brighter days clashing with this nightmare that had resurfaced. Jason, he managed, words catching like shards of glass in his throat. What do you want? Jason laughed, the sound chilling. What I want? Oh, it's quite simple. I want you to feel the weight of your choices. He extended a hand, and the shadows flickered in response, shifting and undulating as if alive. Every sacrifice, every secret, it will all come crashing down. The desperate woman stepped closer to the young man, her breath shallow. He is not just here for you. He is here for all of us, she stammered, glancing nervously at Jason. He knows what we've done. Realization washed over the crowd like cold water, a collective gasp echoing in the cramped space. Old alliances faltered. Faces turned shadowy and doubtful. What do you mean? Another person called out, voice trembling. Every decision to turn a blind eye, every moment we chose silence over truth, he feeds off that, she said, voice gaining strength. It's why they're coming for me. I know things that could save us. The air crackled again, and the shadows surged forward, wild and writhing. Jason's eyes gleamed with malice. You think you have power? You're nothing but a pawn in a game far beyond your comprehension. The young man couldn't stand it anymore. Enough. He shouted, his voice breaking the spell of fear that had shackled them. We need to band together. If we're going to fight this, we can't let our past divide us. Dozens of eyes turned to him, uncertainty brewing like storm clouds overhead. Inside, he felt a flicker of hope mixed with the dread that churned in the atmosphere. But before anyone could respond, Jason waved his hand in a dramatic flourish. Shadows lunged at them, and screams erupted from the crowd. They struggled against the oppressive darkness, fear clawing at their hearts. The young man grabbed the woman's hand, pulling her closer. We need to get out of here. No. She screamed, eyes wide. We can't just run without facing him. But the darkness was thickening, and Jason's laughter echoed as it coiled around them. Face me. You can't even face yourselves. The young man's heart raced as time seemed to stand still. Would silence drown them, or could they break free from Jason's hold? The laughter reverberated through the room, leaving an unsettling chill that promised their fears were far from over. In that moment, courage mingled with desperation. They had to confront both the shadows behind Jason and the shadows within themselves, or risk everything to be swallowed whole by the darkness. With a steady resolve gathering in her chest, the desperate woman stepped forward, determination blazing in her eyes. You've fed off our fear for too long. It ends now. But just as courage ignited among them, an ear-splitting crack shook the walls and new force joined the fray. The doors slammed shut, sealing them inside the room with both Jason and the growing storm outside. Did you really think you could hide? Thundered a voice just beyond the door. The darkness is coming, and it knows where you are. A new specter of dread loomed outside, and as Jason's shadows closed in, the edges of their world began to unravel. What other horrors lurked in the storm? What price must they pay to reclaim their survival? Choices loomed like the shadows, each one stained with the weight of their collective sins. And time was running out. The scream of splintering wood followed the crack of thunder, reverberating through the small room like a gunshot. The crowd froze, fear surging as Jason's laughter mingled with the echo, a sickening duet that made everyone's skin crawl. What have you done? The desperate woman gasped, her face pale, lips barely moving. They've trapped us. We can't know. We can't let him win. The young man shouted again, his heart pounding in his chest. He thought of every moment they had tried to escape their past, every secret left unspoken. We are stronger together. Remember that. Jason's shadows twisted violently, responding to his call. A swirling mass of darkness surged toward the group, smoky tendrils reaching out as if groping for flesh. You really think unity can save you? Jason sneered, stepping closer, his features obscured by the shadows flickering around him. You're all just scared children, and I'm here to remind you of your sins. Panic gripped the crowd, their eyes darting between each other, searching for strength. They were drowning in doubt. One figure broke away, retreating toward the furthest corner, despair etched deeply in their face. We're done for. We can't win against him. Don't look away. The woman yelled, her voice razor sharp. This is exactly what he wants. He wants us to fracture. We can't feed his darkness. The words hung heavy in the air, resonating with shared understanding. They couldn't give in to Jason's taunts. They had to fight, even against their own fears. The young man felt his grip tighten on the woman's hand. We have to rally together. Our fighting spirit is our only weapon. In that moment, something unexpected happened. One by one, people began to stand taller, their fear morphing into resolve. Their unity brought flickering light into the cavernous shadow surrounding Jason. Jason scowled, the air changing palpably, charged with electric tension. You think that little spark will save you? I'll show you what real darkness looks like. With another flourish of his hand, the shadows released a furious wave, crashing against the united front they had suddenly created. The force hit them like a wall, but instead of collapsing, they felt the pulse of energy between their bodies, a warmth igniting their spirits. Feel it. The young man shouted, breathing in courage. This is our strength. We want to let you take our light. Light. Jason growled, suddenly thrown off balance. Foolishness. The shadows hissed around him, recoiling as though stung. In that critical moment, a flicker of hope glimmered among their cluster. The woman shifted, glancing around at her companions. Together, we can push back. It's now or never. They joined their hands, forming a circle, channeling every ounce of shared experiences, every moment of pain, every secret they'd buried in silence. As their resolve surged, the shadows began to wane, trembling against the unified light they created. Fight back. They urged one another, not just against Jason, but against the darkness within. Yet the battle was far from over. Just as they felt the tide turning, a new roar erupted outside the room. It felt like the beginning of an ominous storm, even more potent than the darkness encroaching within. Jason's eyes widened, and for the first time, fear flickered across his features. "What have you done?" he whispered, realizing too late that they were not alone. With a sudden breath, the walls shook. The door burst open, revealing a shadowy figure silhouetted against the stormy night. It stepped inside, and all eyes turned towards it, jaws dropping in disbelief who or what had emerged from the darkness. And were they friend or foe in this battle of shadows? The next moment would determine everything. The figure moved closer, the low light casting long shadows across their frame. It didn't just walk, it glided, a fluid motion that sent shivers prickling down the spines of those present. The crowd tensed, muscles coiled like springs, each person peering through the dimness, seeking details. "Who are you?" the young man called out, his voice barely rising above the storm's fury. The new arrival paused, the crackle of energy crescendoing in the air, and then spoke, words layered with an unexpected calm. "I am Alicia," she said, her voice a melodic contrast to the horror that cloaked the room. "I've come to warn you." "Warn us?" the desperate woman echoed, disbelief tinged with a flicker of hope. "You see what is happening here? We are about to be consumed by darkness." "That darkness is a mere reflection," Alicia replied, stepping into the weak light. Her features emerged, eyes like storm clouds and hair that shimmered like silver water under moonlight. "Jason feeds on fear, but it's more than that. He draws strength from your secrets, your regrets." Jason's laughter broke the moment, a sharp cackle that filled the room. "What do you know of my power, witch?" he sneered, stepping forward, shadows swirling aggressively around him. "You think you can disrupt this? You're a fool." "Enough," Alicia commanded, her voice echoing across the small chamber. The shadows hesitated, twitching as if uncertain of their master's dominion. "They have united against you, Jason. Your fear-mongering will not work here." The air shifted again, thick with tension. The crowd, bolstered by Alicia's presence, clenched their hands tighter together, a web of determination growing between them. "It's time for the truth to unearth the lies," Alicia continued, her eyes narrowing on Jason. "You are not an unstoppable force, you're merely a shadow. Your reign here is built on the foundation of deceit and pain." With those words, the shadows recoiled, pulsating violently as if they were alive, responding to Jason's fury. The room felt charged and electric heartbeats surged among the group, igniting their spirits. "What do we do?" the young man whispered urgently, glancing at Alicia. "How do we drive him away?" "Look inside yourselves," Alicia urged, her gaze sweeping across the group. "Face your fears, confront your truths. It's not a battle against him, but a reconciliation with yourselves." Jason sneered, regaining control. "You don't think they can defeat me with a few confessions, do you? They are not heroes, they're just broken pieces." The desperate woman stepped forward, her hands trembling but resolved. "We may be broken, but together we can create something new." She looked to the others, their expression shifting from fear to defiance. They were more than shadows of their past, together they held a flicker of hope. "This is it," Alicia shouted, with a fierce intensity. "Harness your pain, transform it into light. Only by reclaiming your truth can you defeat him." Their voices rose, chanting in unison, stirring the air around them. "We are not just shadows. We are light. We are free." The storm outside howled, a furious wind crashing against the walls, but inside, they held their ground. The shadows started to swirl faster, throwing themselves against the light, but with each hymn of unity, they began to unravel. "You can't do this," Jason screamed, shaking with rage. "You are nothing." "Then let us show you what nothing can do," the young man countered, his voice rising above the chaos. In that moment, as Alicia raised her hands, something shifted. A blinding light erupted from the circle of standing figures, pushing back the shadows with searing intensity. Faces illuminated, expressions shifting from uncertainty to determination, but just as victory seemed within reach, a chilling laugh pierced the air, deep, guttural sound emanating from Jason as he began to dissolve into a mass of darkness. This isn't over. His shadows darted toward the crowd, desperate to reclaim their hold, and with that, Alicia's eyes widened in realization. You need to protect each other. Do not let the darkness escape. But as they braced for the onslaught, the walls began to close in, the air thickening, and a new wave of fear flooded through. Were they truly prepared for what lay ahead? Or would their newfound strength yield to the darkness creeping just beneath? The thunder roared once more, drowning out their thoughts, leaving them to question if they had enough power to battle the shadows' resurgence. Would the light be enough to hold back the tide? The shadows lunged, tendrils snaking through the air like predatory snakes, hungry for the light that flickered so valiantly in the room. Alicia's voice cut through the chaos. Stand together. Feel the warmth of your unity. The crowd instinctively drew closer, hands mingling together in a fervent circle. The storm outside raged, wind howling and rain battering the walls, but inside, a fragile sense of security built as hearts beat in sync. Face your fears. Alicia urged again, her tone rising above the cacophony. What holds you back? What keeps you shackled? The desperate woman spoke first, her voice shaky but rising with a new fervor. I'm afraid of what I've lost. My family, my friends, because I chose to hide my true self. She squeezed harder, and the circle responding with murmurs of understanding. A warm light pulsed in the center of their clasped hands, illuminating faces with flickers of resolve. One by one, others echoed her pain. The young man confessed, I've always been afraid of failure. That my best wouldn't be enough. Enough isn't the point. Shouted another voice, a man with tears in his eyes. It's trying that matters. I've let shame run my life. With each confession, the shadows surged, wild and chaotic, Jason's laughter reverberating through the room, hot with disdain. Fools! You think your whispers can conquer my darkness? You're merely embers against a tempest. But the power in the room grew. As they shared their truths, the light became blinding. The shadows shrieked, swirling in turbulent protest, losing their grip on reality. Suddenly, a shadow darted toward the circle, desperate and dark, trying to break through. The young man gasped, it's trying to break us. Don't let it. Alicia yelled, voice trembling with urgency. Breathe unity into your fears. And so they did. With every intake of breath, they pulled together, channeling the energy from within. A radiant pulse of light erupted, wrapping around them like a protective shield. The encroaching darkness writhed and hissed in response, striking the walls, but unable to penetrate their combined force. Alicia's eyes blazed, intense and focused. Remember your truths. They're weapons, not chains. More voices joined in unison. We are light. We refuse to be shackled. As if the very air had ignited, the light pushed against the swirling shadows. The claustrophobic feeling in the room began to wane as if they were standing on a precipice, a whirlwind of brightness blooming outwards, illuminating not just the immediate space, but pushing against the oppressive walls of fear. Jason roared, no. You cannot escape. His shadows writhed frantically, but Alicia's voice rang clear. We do not need to escape. This is our light. This is our truth. With one final, desperate lunge, the dark tendrils surged toward the heart of the congregation, seeking to snuff out their light. A wave of darkness swelled, pushing violently against the fragile barrier they had formed. But Alicia stood firm, arms outstretched, a beacon beckoning them to pour everything they had into the light. With a shared scream of unity, the room exploded into brightness. In that deafening moment, the shadows recoiled, Jason's furious howl tearing through the air as the darkness began to peel away, struggling against the growing light. But as they rallied, a sickening crack rang out. A crack splintered across the floor, and suddenly the ground beneath them gave way. The room jolted, they were tumbling, skies falling through a black abyss. The light flickered, and panic rose sharply in the group. What is happening? Someone cried out, their voice soaked in terror. We are falling into the shadow realm. Alicia shouted, clasping her hand to the young man's. We need to hold on to each other. Trust the light. As they spiraled into oblivion, the last thing they caught a glimmer of was Jason's dark laughter echoing behind them. You thought you could break me? The worst is yet to come. In the swirling darkness, dread pulled in their stomachs. Was there a way to reclaim the light? Or was this merely the beginning of their descent? And suddenly, everything went black. As consciousness flickered back to life, the group found themselves lying on damp earth, each breath heavy with the weight of the shadows that clung to them, whispering doubts and regrets. The air was thick, suffocating, yet there was an invigorating pulse beneath their skin, a reminder of their light, a flicker of unity. They scrambled to their feet, heartbeats racing in the disorienting twilight. Where are we? A voice trembled from the crowd, scanning the darkened landscape. Jagged rocks and twisted trees loomed in the murky distance, silhouettes painted against the sky swollen with ominous clouds. Alicia stepped forward, her voice calm in the face of chaos. We're in the shadow realm, a realm fed by the fears we've hidden. Each person felt the unease tightening their chest, but they clung to the raw energy pulsating from their shared truths. This is where we confront our greatest fears, Alicia urged. And where we reclaim our strength. The young man, his resolve strengthening, turned to face the others. We can't let ourselves be torn apart here. We've fought too hard. Remember what we learned, our truths unite us. Let us find a way out together. As their voices melded into a harmonious rhythm, an oppressive weight began to lift. But shadows lurked at the edges, coiling like serpents, always there, taunting and pulling at their resolve. Suddenly, Jason materialized before them, a specter of their past, his features twisted with malevolence. Did you really think you could escape? He hissed, his voice dripping with scorn. You're bound to your fears, and this is where they thrive. Not anymore, Jason. The desperate woman shouted, a fire igniting in her heart. You don't have power over us. You're the fear we've outgrown. With a furious roar, darkness surged from Jason, tendrils straining to ensnare them. But the group stood firm, hearts beating together faster now, merging into one rhythm, one purpose. I'm not afraid of you. The young man shouted, stepping forward. You only exist because we allowed you to. You can't dictate our will. As their words filled the air, their luminous spirits flickered brighter, blinding light illuminating the surroundings, pushing against the shadows that twisted in protest. Alicia took a deep breath, harnessing the strength of their unity. Focus. Channel your energy into your truths. The shadows shrieked, pushing closer, but Alicia waved her hands, drawing power from the intertwining light of their souls. This is not just about we once were, it's about who we are now. We are not ashamed. The crowd joined in, voices rising into a crescendo. We are love. We are hope. We are free. A pulse of energy surged through the ground, vibrant and full of life. As they declared their truths, light erupted from within, radiating against the darkness like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. The shadows quaked, Jason's form twisting in agony. No. He bellowed, the dark energy writhing. You are nothing. You can't defeat me. But they were not afraid of his words anymore. We've learned to face our fears, the desperate woman shouted, stepping closer, voice steady. And you're nothing but a shadow, a remnant of what we've chosen to leave behind. Jason recoiled, eyes wide with horror as light blinded him, illuminating the darkness that had once dominated them. In a final gasp, he exploded into a flurry of shadows, dissipating into the air like mist, leaving them shivering in the stillness. The shadows that had enclosed them began to vanish, light spilling into the void like cascading water. The ground beneath them solidified, and together, they emerged from the dark realm, standing in the world they had fought so hard to reclaim. Tears mingled with rain on their faces, glimmering with hard-won joy. The sky brightened above, the storm clouds parting to reveal sun-kissed skies, free from dread. Their burdens felt lighter, secrets and shadows no longer haunted them. Alicia smiled, her expression affirming their newfound freedom. You've embraced your truth. Together, you have conquered not only the darkness outside but the shadows within. Around them, cheers erupted, the atmosphere exploding with exhilaration. They took each other's hands, standing united in the daylight. Thank you for believing in each other, the young man said, voice full of gratitude. Let us not forget this. We hold the power within us to resist fear, to shine brightly in the face of uncertainty. With hearts newly entwined, they vowed to carry their light forward. Together, they stepped into a future unwritten, a tapestry woven by courage, compassion, and unshakable resolve. And as they walked on, leaving remnants of shadows behind, they understood this: while darkness may threaten, light would always guide them forward. You need to subscribe now to this channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that await. Smash that like button to help us feed the algorithm and reach even more amazing souls. Flood the comment section with your reactions and theories about this finale. You have so much to share, and we want to hear every bit of it. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this triumphant conclusion. Your support matters.